G'day, it's another new week and time to move on to some different stuff. So this week the plan is to build the couch frame and to get the electrical components that are going to be situated in there installed. Another big week, let's get into it. Okay, well, it's probably going to end up laid out something like that. If I'm honest, it takes up a bit more space than I was anticipating. Okay, so I've been playing around with the layout a bit more, and I think I've settled on this until I change my mind. Rotating it that way means that the cable entry points are over this side, which is where I want them. Closest to the batteries, closest to the 240 volt circuit breakers will be over here, and then I've moved the DC to DC converter down onto the other side of the wall here behind the handbrake, and the solar charge controller in behind the driver's seat, so that gets them out of that space. The solar charge controller needed more space than I could give it in under the couch for cooling. That keeps my DC cable lengths as short as I can get them, nice and manageable, and buys me a bit of space over near the door here under the couch for storage space, which we'll be able to access from standing outside the van. So just by drawing it out as I kind of plan it, helps me to figure out the best method of construction. And I've done a rough drawing, kind of worked out what I'm doing, made myself a cut list of the pieces of timber I need. So it's a little bit tight going in there, but that's alright. I'm quite happy with that. You get the basic idea. So I'm now waiting for the filler on the couch bases to go off before they can be sanded. So I think it's now time for me to begin something which I've been looking forward to for quite a long time, and that is start installing the electrical components. I'm just working on wiring up the solar isolator, just getting the wires organised. These are quite stiff wires, so they take a little bit of working around. No stray wires or anything like that. It's torqued up nicely. It's a good solid connection. Put the lid on and try switching it and see if we get some power at the bottom. I had to take the vehicle battery out to get to the location where I'm going to mount the fuse for the DC to DC charger. There's no really great place to put it, so I'm going to put it down here beside the gearbox behind the battery. It's not amazing, but it's just where it's going to have to be. Right, I've got all my interlink cables cut. Well, that's one linking cable made. Basically just got to repeat that another 7 times. Put heat shrink on them. Last week Melanie was calling herself the apprentice. She was helping me with painting and that sort of thing. Today she's decided she's the boss because she turned up, painted a wall and primed the wall, primed the couches, and then she's gone off to have coffee with a friend. This inverter is kind of chunky. Alright, so that's the inverter screwed in and battery sitting in place. What I need to do now is work out the layout of the circuit breakers and bus bars and all that kind of thing. Okay, so here's what I have to figure out how to lay out. These components here need to get installed into this space here in a logical fashion. That's the last of the crimps for this big cable that I have to do. It's a 120mm cable, or for my American friends, it's the metric equivalent of what you would call 4/0. The reason for needing such big cable is because we have a 3000 watt inverter which can draw large amounts of current, so need big cables to support that. So I've spent several hours wrestling cables. You've got to work with this kind of cable, not against it. So let it take its shape, get the connectors to sit the right way, rather than try and expect to twist the cable after the fact. Anyway, we're there with that, so I can put these in, and from there it gets easier because it's smaller cross-section cables to work with. The battery interlinks all have to be the same length so that it balances the batteries, the connections between them. That does mean with this heavy cable that there could be some fighting the cable, despite my best efforts to make sure all the terminations line up nicely. Alright, let's torque up the negative terminals. Alright, so that's the battery terminations done. These cables feel so small, so much easier to work with than what I've been working with all day. Alright, so the solar charge controller has powered up. Seeing no solar, which is expected because it's off. It's seeing 13.1 volts on the battery bank with no amps, so nothing coming in, nothing going out. Okay, so I've turned the solar on now. You can see that it's currently making 87 watts and at 38.3 volts. It's showing that it's putting 6.2 amps into the batteries, and having only just turned it on, it's jumped to 13.2 volts on the battery bank, which just means that it's putting some voltage in, really. So we're operational. You can see here in the Renogy DC home app, we've got the 5 batteries and the solar charge controller down in the bottom right corner there. So the solar charge controller is currently putting out 5.67 amps, and you can see what charge is going into each battery. So it's currently estimating that the batteries will be fully charged at the current rate of charge in 1 day, 17 hours and 28 minutes. It'll be interesting to see what it does tomorrow. It's 5:30 in the afternoon now, the sun's pretty low in the sky, and I'm going to call it a day now. G'day, it's Thursday, time for another exciting day of van building. And today I'll continue on with electrical. First thing I need to do is go and design and 3D printing a mount for the isolation switch for the inverter. So the isolation switch is just sitting down in here, but there's a bit of a gap there between the wall and the switch. So I'm just going to 3D print a mount to sandwich between this and the wall. I've had to do a similar thing with one of the circuit breakers because I inadvertently ordered a panel mount rather than a surface mount circuit breaker for this particular one. Mum and Dad, if you're watching, remember when I was a teenager you bought me a toolbox and some tools? Well, this is one of those spanners that you bought me. Still got them, still use them. All these years later. Thank you. Just want to say thanks for that birthday gift. Actually, it might have been Christmas, I don't remember. But thank you. This wiring has to be taken seriously, especially with these big cables carrying a lot of current. There is the serious risk of fire if you do things incorrectly. Don't tighten up connections properly, have wire not properly sized or not properly fused. The fuses are about the protection of the cable from carrying more current than it's rated for. And if a cable is carrying significantly more current than it's rated for, it can cause a fire. So it pays to approach the whole thing with due caution. The DC to DC charger should work, and we've just got this one last circuit breaker to mount on the wall down here, which will be feeding power into this fuse block. Despite the fact that it's a bit of a gloomy day, we're currently making 290 watts. We're putting 20.49 amps into the system. It's looking good. Happy with that. The other thing I need to test is the DC to DC charger. So we might fire the van up and see what that does. You know how sometimes you get totally into what you're doing and forget about something? I just started the vehicle to test the DC to DC charger, and it wasn't working. And I'm like, oh man, what's going on? Why is it not working? It would be because I haven't connected this yet. Amazing how when you connect up the wire, things start working. Solid green LED, no red LED. Perfect, that's what we want. Now between the solar and DC to DC charger, we've got between 10 and 11.5 amps coming in on each of the batteries, and the app's now saying fully charged in 4 hours 58 minutes on a dull day. So that's pretty cool. Well, that's going to be it for today. It's time to clean up and head inside. I'm pretty pleased with the progress today. Nice to have the lights on and programmed on the Renogy One so that I can turn them off, turn them on from my phone. Good morning everyone, it's Friday morning, time to get started. Beautiful blue sky, sunny day. It's 8 AM and before I carry on with electrical terminations, there's something I'm just interested to check out. If I come over this way a bit, the sun is up there over my shoulder, so not optimally placed for charging the batteries at the moment. It's quite low in the sky. The van's not parked in a way that tilting the panels will give maximum effect, but I'm just interested to see what effect it will have. So if I look at the controller at the moment, so we're currently making 172 watts, 4.59 amps at 37.9 volts. So let's just quickly push the solar panels up with my patented solar panel raising mechanism. So we're now at 240 watts, and the charge time to fully charged has gone from, it was 11 hours a moment ago, it's now showing 7 hours. So even though the van isn't parked at an angle which would optimise gaining solar yield by tilting the panels at the moment, it would really need to be 90 degrees from where it is to optimise the yield. That's increased the yield by about 50%. So that's not a bad result really. So that's looking better, all the fuse box terminations are done. So that's the face frame made. I've got a rebate back over in here for a piece of 6mm ply to sit in there, and that will form that side of the cupboard. I'll sit in there. Piece will blank off the end here. G'day, it's Saturday morning. Today I want to get this overhead cupboard, what we can, painted and installed, ready for doing the fit off of that electrical panel behind me. Melanie's done a really nice job of painting this cupboard. Well, that's it for episode 21. Really happy to say that I've caught up with my schedule. I've installed all the electrical components that I had intended to install this week. There is more that I could have installed, but nothing urgent. And I've also actually started on next week's work with the beginning of work on mounting tanks. Picked up the lining for the bathroom at Bunnings today. It came in a week earlier than they said it would. So that's great. It means that I can continue on with the bathroom, do that in conjunction with doing the plumbing, which is what the plan for the next couple of weeks is. But feeling good about being back on track. So time to clean up and head inside and enjoy what's left of the weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me. See ya.